Welcome home. We provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Nicholas Wright here with me today. How you doing, Nicholas?
Hey, doing well, doing well. How's it going?
It's going great, man. It's going great. You have your headset, you got your gear going. Looks like you do this all the time.
Hey, in order to keep up, you got to do what you got to do to stay in the race. So I don't know. I
100%.
found the headset kind of helpful.
It is helpful. It definitely is helpful. I see you have a website right there where your name tag is wgctoday.com. What's that?
Yeah, so Wright Group Counseling, that's my website where you can find me and contact me. Nicholas Wright, a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Virginia, but I also do coaching throughout the world and consultation work as well. In addition to being a licensed professional counselor, I'm also a licensed substance abuse treatment practitioner. So I kind of help people dealing with different addictions. I loved addiction, anywhere from gambling addiction to OCD, alcohol, drugs. I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere around us, and it's always been something of interest to me. Just Black mental health in general.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello to each and every person who's tuned in right now, whether you be on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Facebook, or YouTube. Please join us throughout the duration of this conversation. Stay for the second half. Like, tag, and text. Get somebody else in here for this conversation, because when it comes to addiction, when it comes to counseling, when it comes to men at large, particularly Black men, we are in for a very pertinent conversation today, and I'm thankful for it. Elanya Moore says, hello, Kings. Hello to you as well. Stacy Shifless says, Nick is a great guy, very knowledgeable, and a great friend and colleague. I'm very thankful for your time today, Nicholas. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Where were you born?
Born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, about 30 minutes south of Little Rock. Father from Bearden, Arkansas, mother from Pine Bluff.
Whoa. So you're from Arkansas.
I am. Hey. All day long. Arkansas, Pine Bluff. I thought you knew.
Hold on. How long did you live in Arkansas?
So probably till I was like 5 or 6, but family's always been important. So it was one of those things where we would transition, and for summer times, I would usually slide back down to Arkansas, winter breaks, Easter, Christmas. I was going to grandma's house, so it wasn't uncommon for my cousins and I to all get shipped down south as we were growing up in Ohio, back down south, so we could have that family bond and share some of those traditions that we built. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about what you were experiencing down south. What was in the water? What culture was being created down there? What did it look like? What did Arkansas feel like? Talk to us.
No, absolutely. So Arkansas is the deep south. So when you think of the South, you have a lot of people in the Mason-Dixie line, but we were the deep South. So it was a lot of family togetherness. It was very strong. The Bible Belt. So no alcohol on Sundays, church on every corner, similar to a lot of neighborhoods across America in that sense. But there was always this sense of family that was made to be important. I guess I always related to a lot of Italians because Italians have a strong belief in family. And that was huge for us because it was like, no matter where you come from, you are family. And it always gave that vibe. My aunt, she, Little Rock Nine, right? So, you have the people that went to integrate the schools in Little Rock, right?
That's
Central
right.
High. So my aunt, she wasn't in the first cohort, so she didn't make the books, but she was in the third, that went to school in Little Rock and helped with integration of the schools. My grandmother was a school teacher. My grandfather, believe it or not, had a 6th grade education. That's when he dropped out. So education was always important to my family, whether it was, reading books, learning to read at an early age at 5 years old from my grandmother, all the way to entrepreneurship. My grandfather, he said, down south, deep south, right? So he was like, people pick cotton, sharecroppers was a big thing during his era when he was growing up. So it was important for him to tell me. He was like, people were picking cotton for 50 cents a day. I wanted to make sure I got it right. Go ahead.
Hold on. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, get somebody else into the building for this conversation. You're telling me,
bring them in, because I don't do this too often. Come on.
You're telling me that your aunt. I mean, I'm almost emotional right now in this conversation with you, man, because you come directly out of the history that we study, the history that is constantly put in front of us in Hollywood films. Some of the most impactful media that we've ever seen centers around the lived experience of your family last generation and the generation before that. And so we're talking to the product of the experiences that really are part of the fabric of the American story. When you say that your grandfather experienced sharecropping growing up, I'm thinking some of that work ethic is in you today, talking to us right now on America's Next Motivator. How powerful is that? What else did your grandfather?
Very true.
Yes, sir.
No, very true. So my grandfather was real. He was the real deal. Ira Young, Puerto Rick, right? That's what his nickname was. So pick cotton, 50 cents a day. I think he was like, nah, that's not for me. He worked for like 2 days. He said he quit. So you know what he did? He started selling bikes. So he took bicycles, different pieces of them, and he would get them and he would put them together and he would sell them to people in the neighborhood. And then at that point in time, after he sold those, he eventually earned enough money that he was able to buy a piece of land. At that point in time, he had 6 children, right? He's calling chillins. So he had 6 chillins, and he had a house, and he raised his family off of that land. He worked the land. So at that point, you know, you got beans, greens, tomatoes,
Right.
chickens, you name it, right? Right. So he had hogs and all that type of stuff. And after that, interestingly enough, he built a house. So on his acreage, he built a house. With that house, he rented it out. With his main house, he took the front of it and he made a storefront. So at this point in time, he had a storefront that pretty much supplied the neighborhood. My grandma made the candy. My grandma made the dresses. My mom would order the bread, the milk. He had the hogs in the back. He had his own produce. At this point in time, you're going to Young's Produce. So he had his own little storefront property in which he was able to make money and continue to buy land, buy his father's land. So we're 4 generations. I'm 4 generations away from slavery. Sorry, my mother is 4 generations away from slavery. I'm 5. Mm-hmm. So that's as far back as we can trace our lineage. But that information is powerful to me because it always gives me that encouragement, knowing that foundation and where it came from. There were hard times, I'm sure. After that, you know, my mother, she went to school later on, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, same place I went. She became a nurse. My biological father, he ended up dying when I was 5. So once he passed, my mother graduated, single mother, doing her thing, went to nursing school. My grandparents were very supportive. Family was very supportive in that aspect. And then eventually it hit a space, and my biological father, his family was very motivational and inspirational in my life, all the way down from babysitting to clothes and everything. When he passed,
let me ask you something. What were your conversations like with your mother growing up? You're watching her go to school. You're in school at the same time. You know. Mm-hmm. It seems like there might have been some very powerful conversations between you and your mom growing up. Are you able to share any of those lessons that she handed to you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of little stuff. So every tub has to stand on its own bottom. So meaning, you know, you got to go get it. You know, I can hold your hand, other people can help you, but eventually it's going to be a point in time where you got to stand on your own bottom. My grandfather used to tell me, Nicholas, it's going to be a point. I know your father's not here, but it's going to be a point in time where your mother and father both aren't here. So you got to make sure you get what you got to get. You know, I was blessed later on to have a stepfather. He jumped into the picture shortly after when I was 6. So, I mean, at that point in time, I mean, I've really had a father figure in my life for a long time, so I can never negate that. But just having those lessons instilled in me, it really helped me push far. I think I was also able to find community, right? So I was able to learn from a sense of community. So I think I reach out. So I say that to say this for those other kids out there, your story is not like mine. My story is unique to me, and your story is germane to you. It's not like anyone else's. But one thing you can take is the life lessons around you. So I was able to analyze and choose, right? So I was able to look and see, okay, there's a lot of different influences here around me. I had cousins from Little Rock, uh, and when I say that, I mean I had cousins who were full out gang banging, Bloods, full out Little Rock. Uh, what was it? HBO special. I don't know. It used to be this thing called Banging in Little Rock. Some of those were my cousins. So it was
Wow.
like finger waves. They used to have the finger waves. I'll never forget it. Right.
Right.
Used to play with knives and everything. And I mean, they act different when the parents aren't around. So it was one of those things where I was able to learn from some successful people, and I was able to say, you know what, I like those characteristics, but I also had the insight to look at some people and say, I don't like those characteristics. And it was that fabric that kind of helped mold me as well. You know, having faith in Christ was always another thing. Strong sense of faith as it relates to Christianity, growing up the street from a church. Um, didn't always see eye to eye with some of the principles or even some of the people, but the relationship that I developed with the Bible was one that I found beneficial throughout my journey through life. There was
Let's
points. Go ahead.
let's zero in here. What was middle school like for you?
Middle school. Ooh, you trying to dial it back? Okay, I was going to take them to college. Middle school was all right. 6, 7, 8. Middle school was good. I was taking I was paying attention to school a little bit. I was taking the Valentines that my mother would leave me before school, giving them to the girl in class. That the eighth grader, I was a sixth grader. Doing those sort of things at the time. Um, I
Okay.
was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, more involved in sports than anything else. That's really what piqued my interest. I was living in Ohio at this time, Camp Dennison. So keep in mind, some people don't, I went to Indian Hill all the way, kindergarten through high school. Indian Hill is one of the richest counties, no, one of the richest cities in Ohio, and it's the top 20. Top 20? I think it's the top 20. I want to say top 200. Let's say top 200. One of the top 200 richest cities in America. I mean, in the United States. Whew,
Okay.
not America. But yeah. So from that aspect, I saw two different worlds. You have a kid from small town Pine Bluff, Arkansas, right? Um, Raised from humble beginnings, but hard workers, entrepreneurs. But then I also had this experience where I went to school with some of the wealthiest people in the nation.
Wow.
So from that, my eyes opened up. But I'm also going back to the country. I'm going back to Arkansas. Never forget where you come from. I'm going back to my cornerstone. So I know about 1428 Tennessee Street. That's where my grandfather, that's our address in Pine Bluff. I know that milestone. The house is no longer there, just land, but it's family land. So I know what's up. So then it's like I gained that experience, and some of the things were kind of difficult for me to balance because you have those realities. As mental health also teaches us that a child's desire to belong is more important than safety. Okay.
What does that mean? What does that mean for the types of risks that our teenagers make?
Absolutely. So the importance is to diversify your child. Diversify, putting you in different social groups is going to increase the chances of success and bridging the gap between the youth and what the parents desire, right? So the parents desire, I want you to do well. I want you to be great. I don't care if you go to college. I don't care if you get a trade. I just want you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet as a man, as an adult, as a woman, as a young lady, as an individual. I want you to be able to stand up and say, I can do it. I don't need help. Well, I'm stable. But the best way to make that happen is to diversify the youth. All right.
Okay.
So if you just have one click, if your parents try to push you towards the church kids, you like, some of them cool. I like a couple of them.
Mhm.
But you know what? They pulled you out, and now you have an outlet. You know, you have your football community, or you have that athletic community. You know, so the more communities your child is involved in, the better chances they have of picking the right lane to go down. But if they don't have that sense of community or those different places to engage, there's a chance that that child right there at that space and that time, he just gonna pick what he know. He gonna
Right.
pick who accepts him.
Right.
He
You know
or she.
what? I see
Yeah.
I see such a resonance with what you're saying in my story and the realities of thousands of young people across America. You're talking
Every
to
day.
America right now. You're
Every day.
talking to America right now. You're talking to the parents and you're talking to the children. I think it's absolutely phenomenal that you make this point here. Finding balance is more important than safety.
Absolutely.
This is the superhero complex that comes along with being young. You don't realize that you're in danger when you're going into neighborhoods that you shouldn't be in, because you're looking for brotherhood.
Exactly.
You know, you're looking
Belonging.
for sisterhood, right?
Yes.
Belonging. You look for belonging, and so you take risks that you don't even realize the danger inside of those risks. And we wonder, why are our children, getting into trouble? Why are our children making so many of the wrong decisions? And it goes back to the balance of being able to survive the risk. Obviously, there's something inside of the child that wants to be able to survive the risk. The child wants to experience something that boosts their adrenaline. They want to do things that provide a certain sensation. And when the parent doesn't have the perspective that I need to put my child in camp, I need to put my child on a sports team, I need to put him in martial arts, I need to send him to, scouting, hiking, swimming, right? Your child is going to naturally come up with ways to get those attributes. Am I making the proper correlation?
Absolutely. I could even flex and just talk about the Shaker Heights study, right? So Shaker Heights is a study that happened in Ohio. It's an affluential Black community. Doctors, lawyers are the parents of these African American children. Long story short, all these kids, when they're graduating high school, you know what's happening?
What?
None of them are going to college. None of them are getting secondary education. We're like, what is going on, right? They're trying to figure out, why are these African American children not interested? What's happening is all these African American children, they are going to the urban neighborhoods. They're going to the city. They're going to kick it with people where they feel like they belong. And unfortunately, some of these influences that they ran into, looking for that brotherhood, looking for that sisterhood, looking for that companionship, weren't the safe spaces that they need to really be involved in. And once they identified that, they were able to try to pull the Shaker Heights children back into a better scenario that would provide them more opportunities for success. I mean, that's why it's so important to get connected with your local Boys and Girls Club. That's why it's so important to go to the library, right? It sounds crazy, but having a librarian as a friend is not crazy. Library's got a lot of different things to offer. The YMCA, it's affordable. Go ahead. Oh, CRC, real quick. Sorry, I can't forget. I can never forget to shout out CRC, Cincinnati Recreation Commission. I was a lifeguard. They took me in when I was 15, and it gave me just a safe space to grow and mature and hang out at the local city pools. We cannot shut down city pools. They matter. All right, go ahead.
We are, in a matter of speaking, we are attracted to one another. When you're in high school or you're in middle school, you're hearing about the other kids in the city and what their experience is like. You're hearing about, what their day-to-day reality is. And when you can see the total difference between what they're experiencing and what you're experiencing, you want to go see it. And so I'm led to understand that we have to remain concerned about all of our children, because if we provide a great experience, a diverse experience for this set of children here, there's nothing that we can do that's going to stop them from going to look at the life of their counterparts. And that's what I mean by us being attracted to one another. We want to know why the kids on the other side of the city, why do they tie their shoes the way that they tie them? Why are they using the slang that they're using? Why are they flipping their hat backwards like that? And when you go down there, sometimes you find out it's because they're making their own life up. They don't have a program laid out for them. And so that's where the lack of understanding of risk comes in. That's where the lack of balance comes in. And that's where the need for us to really unify as a community comes in. I think that what you're talking about today, Nicholas, is information that everybody needs to begin to live by.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter if you live in the poor community or the rich community. Everybody needs to begin to provide a diverse living experience for their children, because these children are going to crisscross the city at some point.
Absolutely.
And we want safety for everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I guess that kind of brings me to a position where I kind of think about the black community and mental health, but just even mental health in general. A lot of people deal with this suppressed anger. We learn a lot of these different things in these toxic environments that we put ourselves in as children. Sometimes we don't have the choice of putting ourselves in these positions. Sometimes these things are forced upon us. But I think if we are able to identify what is happening, it increases our chances of success. To be all the way honest, one of the biggest things I learned in my journey as being a counselor is that in social services, I feel like I can get every single person I meet if I really wanted to. I, as a case manager, can guarantee every African American, anybody who lives in the inner city is eligible to claim PTSD, and you could get a disability check right now. Everybody.
What is PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not so tale of two cities, right? So people are living in environments where you learn these different things when you live in an environment. Like when someone pulls up next to you, you might put your hand under your shirt when they ask for instructions. Why are you doing that? Because you're pretending like you got a gun just in case they do. Hearing sirens going past your house every day, that's not normal. It's a societal norm for the inner city, true, but it's not common. All these things could be considered some sort of third trauma, maybe not even secondary, but maybe even secondary trauma. Taking childhood pictures with friends, and I say 5 out of 10 people are dead or incarcerated. These things could all be considered trauma. But in the Black community, many times what happens is they label it. Do you know what they label it?
What?
Not survival skills, but they're resilient. They're resilient. No, they're not resilient. These are the circumstances they're dealt with, and this is what they have to deal with, and they have the trauma. That's why a lot of countries, as I go,
hold on.
Yo, let me rock.
I love
you,
the things you're saying today.
Brother.
Are you telling me that when we look at our community, if we were just in a taxi riding through a dangerous community today, and we look at their behaviors and we say, wow, they're resilient. You're telling me that it's not as much resilient as it is you're watching them survive as best they can in a dangerous situation.
Absolutely. I think resilient is a nice label to put on it, but I mean, measuring resilience, measure it. It can be done if you really try, but it's not normal, because I've seen people in these affluential neighborhoods go through half as much, a third of as much, and still get a check for PTSD if they needed to. Now, I am not encouraging everyone to get a check because we don't need it. That's why I admire some of the other countries that aren't as invested in mental health, because I also believe in the tune that some people are putting too much attention on issues. So you have this thing where you hyper arousal around a subject.
Right.
Sometimes people need to learn how to shut up and get back on defense. That's athletes are really good at it. They don't
or
go ahead.
Continue to produce offense.
There you go.
Let me ask you something. We're gonna have a great back and forth tonight. Let me ask you this. People who don't go through the same types of trauma as what's typical in the inner city communities, do they still develop resilience? People who were never poor, people whose family was never ripped apart, people who have a mother, father, a family, animals, and a great school system and money, do they become resilient as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So then what I'm hearing you say is that what the people are going through in the dangerous communities, we call that resiliency, as opposed to identifying a set of things that should not be happening, that needs to be stopped, because they're going to be resilient in a healthier environment as well. It's
Correct.
not that they're a miracle that can't happen anywhere USA. You know,
You hit the nail on the head. That's it. So these different, I guess, third party events that are occurring in the inner city, they shouldn't be occurring. The kids shouldn't have to go through the things that they go through. And I would love to see, more money tossed that way. I would see more people just pulled out of these environments, exposed to different culture, exposed to different activities. And that's kind of why I do my Black Mental Health Summits, workshops that I offer. So essentially, it's just different workshops we're going to go over. It's usually a 2-day workshop. Just stay tuned. I got a couple of different ones coming out. We also got webinar classes. And essentially what happens is the students learn about literacy, financial literacy, coping skills, dealing with trauma, suppressed anger. Man, we talk about a lot of different stuff, but it's important that these kids learn about this kind of thing so they can adjust and manifest their goals and learn how to determine their destiny.
Before we go into break, I just want to shake up the room a little bit. In order to address ourselves effectively, correctly, sometimes you gotta identify the problem. When you talk about people putting their hand by their waist because they don't know if the person walking past them has a gun or not. When you talk about the paranoia because the police are passing you by, do we need to acknowledge that to a large extent we are damaged? Are we damaged?
I think that too many counselors focus on helping people learn how to deal with the world instead of putting them in positions to change the world around them.
In order to change the world around you, do you first have to realize that you've sustained damage? Because if you have a proper claim for PTSD, then that means that you're damaged.
I wouldn't call it damaged at all. Okay. I think damaged is a little finite. I think I would call it that you've experienced some trauma. I would call it what it's called. I think that you've experienced some trauma, and I think it might be difficult to overcome some of the things that you've experienced, but I'm also here to tell you that it's not impossible.
Okay. So what you're saying is that we've been traumatized for the most part, but that's not the end of the story. That's not where our growth ends. That's not where our possibility ends. And the future is still a bright place for us potentially.
I think the inner city has a lot of work to do. I think that they need to look at the budget. I think they need to continue to leave the city pools open. I think they need to keep the Thurgood Marshall Fund alive. I think they need to encourage people to go on college tours. I think they need to open up people's eyes to a lot of these different activities and things out here. I think there's different levels of helping. You have some people like Muhammad Ali who felt like, he had to go overseas in order to reach enlightenment. But then you also have that guy up the street in Madisonville, shout out Rainbow, regular guy. But, he was the guy who would come to you and just talk to you. And just, he would touch the kid next door. He would talk to you and just say, hey, that's not right. That's not what you need to do. Or, shout out to Larry Hughes, right? He would take a kid and be like, hey, I'm going to show you how to do some plumbing. This is how you change a toilet. This is how you use channel locks. This is how you change locks on the door. Just teaching you those fundamental skills that can make you a better person. So I think if we have more people that are mentors, more people reaching out, more people talking and sharing their story, I think that people can achieve. I think we're everyday people with everyday issues, and I think that we need to discuss them more and talk. And I think that we can do that, and it starts by opening up and having those dialogues like we're having here today.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Nicholas Wright. He is a wise man. He's doing the studies. He's doing the work, and we'll be right back with the second half after this brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network and our viewership. And we're back. Nicholas, how you feeling out there?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Just want to give people some solid information and some things to just inspire and hopefully change somebody's life by one of these words that I say.
Listen, man, we're getting right back into the content here tonight. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Stacy Shiflett has been getting a lot of people into the conversation, and I deeply appreciate it because we've been talking about mental health for the past at least 5 years. Very, very, very in depth. Mental health, counseling, therapy, PTSD as it exists in our communities. And I feel that while we have you here on this show, we want to make this a victory for all of our publics. So talk to me about therapy, mental health, and counseling. How do these things really help us to deal with PTSD?
So I think a lot of times when people think of counseling, they look at it from a standpoint of survival. Oh man, I'm going through something. Oh man, I need to go to counseling. My girl about to break up with me. All these different scenarios, right? But I think the thing that people really need to embrace, and maybe even might want to embrace, is the reality that counseling is not just for when you're in crisis.
Okay.
Counseling is something that you can do long term. And it doesn't have to be once a week, 2 times a week. You're looking, when you're doing stuff like that, you're kind of working on some trauma. You're going through some deep stuff. But counseling can be once a month. Counseling can be, once you've built your relationship with your therapist, you can go to a point where you're just meeting once every other month just to kind of check in. So when you do have those confrontations, when you do run into some of those barriers that people commonly experience, you have the tools necessary to deal with that anxiety when it comes. Are
you saying that therapy should be a part of our family success plan in general?
Absolutely. And I mean, just look at it like just building a relationship with someone who cares about your mental health, just like you take care of your physical health, and just like you would take care of your vision. You got to take care of your mental health. Some of us are blessed to be in a position where we already just have those healthy coping skills, exercising, prayer, meditation, supportive friends that aren't going to run and stab you in the back or use it as a weapon when you tell them something, or just that support system. But not everybody has that. And even if you do have that, did you know that it is not uncommon for people in marriages to go to counseling at least 4+ times throughout their marriage? It's not uncommon, but these are things that people don't discuss. It's not uncommon for people to experience depression, anxiety, and all these different things. It's not uncommon at all. And I think my job as a counselor is to shed light on how common it actually is and how important it is for success.
Based on our conversation here today, you mentioned just a little while ago that most of us have experienced some form of trauma, and it is clear that most of all of humanity has experienced some form of trauma. Even birth was a form of trauma, and that if you don't process that trauma with somebody like yourself, then your brain is not operating at its optimum capacity because your brain is trying to rationalize some amount of trauma that you went through. And it sounds like if you process some of that trauma, then your brain can now operate at a higher level. Your senses can operate at a higher level. You know, everything about your life just becomes enhanced when you exercise the trauma out of your life, as opposed to seeing things through the lens of your trauma.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, you could testify to that just as well as I can.
Yeah.
That is very true. And I know a lot of times when you're younger, you can't see further past your nose, right?
Right.
But later, if we can just talk about it, I think us having these discussion allows people. Now, with the youth, the big thing that I love is affirmations, right? I mean, I am smart. I am powerful. I
Hold
am
on.
important. I can achieve. Yeah, yeah.
I want to connect this angle right here to addiction. Oh yeah, we're going there tonight.
Let's go.
When you
Oh
when
man.
you don't process the trauma,
Okay.
do you end up taking that frustration out on yourself by way of addiction?
So, all right, biopsychosocial, right? So I think it's three elements that come into play as it relates to an individual. Some people think it's nature versus nurture. I look at it kind of as a whole, right?
Okay.
That circle. So I think you have a biological disposition, right? I think that comes into account. I think psychological, you have some things in your brain in the way that you process and you perceive things that comes into account. And then I also think that there's a social element that also comes into play. As it relates to how much you drink or your addiction. As it relates to the biological standpoint, some people have a predisposition to addiction. And when I say predisposition, I'm not even just talking about narcotics or alcohol. Your grandfather could have had a work addiction. They could have had a money addiction. I know that was a big one in Cincinnati. I got a money addiction. People just have an addiction to all these different things. They could have a hat addiction, shoe addiction, all these different addictions. But in the next generation down, it could present itself as an alcohol addiction. It could present itself as a tobacco, nicotine addiction, right? It could present itself in all these. It could present itself as a workaholic.
So is addiction natural?
No. So addiction isn't natural because at a point of addiction, it's becoming debilitating. Right,
Okay.
it's stopping you from finding that balance to have a success, to be able to maintain your life in a successful manner, i.e., being able to maintain your moral compass. A lot of times with addiction, our moral compass out the womb, food, water, shelter, right? Just that human nature. But when you add addiction in there, your moral compass, food, water, shelter is now changed. Instead of it being food, water, shelter, now we might look at it as food, beer, shelter.
Right. So okay. So
let's work. Yeah.
I've been in conversations where people say, "Well, I don't drink, but I buy shoes, and so I don't drink, but I'm better because instead of me being drunk outside, I'm simply at the mall buying shoes. See, I have a good addiction, and what I'm hearing from you is that it's not about you having a good addiction; it's about us having no addictions. Is that correct?
I think it's about balance. It's about balance. It's about balance. It's all about balance. The whole key is balance. Can I maintain my priorities? Priorities. Can I maintain those priorities and still enjoy the qualities of life that I like to enjoy?
Do we interchange one addiction with another? Is that okay? Or should we not have any addictions at all?
I mean, honestly, I think addiction at all isn't really a strong point. I think your addiction should be just having balance. I think that should be the addiction. Now, don't be so addicted that now you have anxiety. I think addiction is the wrong word to use in that phrase.
Right.
We
But
want
it
to have
happens.
balance.
It
I think no, does it happen? Absolutely. That's why addiction exists. I mean, that's without a doubt. But I think knowing that it doesn't have to happen, or knowing that if it did happen, that you can pull yourself out. If you start to notice, like, dang, I'm drinking before 12, where's your baseline? Those are some things that the youth and the adults need to identify. Where's my baseline? All right, before I started, my dream was to be successful, play ball or something, right?
Mhm.
Or be a scientist, go to school, get a trade. But somewhere along the line, one of these crossroads, instead of going straight, someone might decide to go left or right.
Mhm.
And
That's
at
right.
that point in time, they lose that baseline, that moral compass, right?
Of
Food,
course.
water, shelter. But at this point in time, water's not important. Now, because they're able to identify, because of these talks that we're having right now, hopefully they can say, you know what? I'm buying beer before I'm buying bread. At
Right.
that point in time, I'm going too far. I need help.
Mhm.
So it's all about that balance, and that's who you got around you, who's going to help you. And I mean, we all go do different things. I mean, my experience, believe it or not, before this road to success, I mean, I went to 3 master's programs before I completed.
Wow.
So
Congratulations.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Glory be to God and my family, and then my loving wife and support system, and just positive people in the community supporting me. I couldn't have done it without you all. It truly takes a village,
Mhm.
and I encourage people to build your village. So for me, building my village, what did that look like, right? So for the individual that might be watching and you saying like, oh, this dude, he got it going on, you know, you know, what does your village look like? So for me, my village, I had a solid friend, my best friend, day one, Kenton Davis. Never forget him. He's been there since knee high to a tree stump.
Shout out to Kenton Davis, man.
Good brother, good brother.
Talk to me. Let's spend a second there. And for those people who are not familiar, I know Kenton Davis as well. He
Oh,
is a phenomenal. He's a phenomenal man. He's a wise man, and he gives wisdom, and he shows by actions. What are some of the influences that Kenton Davis had on you? Speak about it.
I mean, talk, right? So, I mean, from him, his family showed me another perspective of a healthy relationship, what healthy love looks like. And for that, I'm forever grateful, because it's good to see what healthy relationships look like so you can model them. I could take you all down a psychological train and talk about Bandura. These are some names you guys might check out on your own. Check out Bandura self-efficacy
Mhm.
and modeling. So some of those things, they modeled healthy relationships. Um, just being a solid friend. He didn't stab in the back. He was a good person. He encouraged me to go to school, right? He
Mhm.
encouraged me to do right, and vice versa. We bounced off of each other. So that was a good person to have. Um, I had his parents who were in the medical field, medical profession, OBGYNs, doctors, very inspirational, right? So you see the Cosbys on TV, but in my mind, I'm like, wow, I know some real live doctors, right?
Mhm.
And these were good people. Honestly, some of the best people, some of the best people I know. Also, in addition to that, I have my church family, right? So the youth in the church, we would complain together. But because we complained together, we had that sense of community when we sit in the pew, like, man, you want to go across the street and get some snacks? You think
Right,
they'll notice, So,
right, right, right.
but we also built from each other. But you know what? Outside of all these influential people, you know who else motivated me?
Cool.
People that I would meet who were homeless.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
People that I would meet who had schizophrenia. People that I would meet who didn't have um, money. Thugs, big OGs, big OG.
That's right.
You triple OG, OG triple.
That's right.
But he didn't have a pot to piss in. And I was like, dang, do I want to be like him? I mean, I like that street stuff. Don't get it twisted. Like, oh, I do like it. It's fun. It's enticing. During that time as a youth, you got a little money. It just, the glamour, the glitz, it looked good to me.
Hold
But
on, hold on, hold on. It sounds like you took something positive from all these different types of people, and
absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
that's unique in regards to you. You were able to sit down with somebody who has schizophrenia and learn something from them. Somebody who, as you said, an OG might be on his way to jail, but you still learn something from him.
I
And
learned I didn't want to be like him. Sometimes you don't have to have doctors, lawyers, and this big entrepreneur person teaching you how to be great. You don't always need ET. I love you, ET. Not a shot, no slight, none of that. You don't need a motivational speaker. Sometimes you can learn what you don't want to be.
that's right.
Finding that baseline, That's the big thing that we want to focus on right here for the youth and adults is find your baseline. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to eat out of garbage cans. I don't want to be 40 years old on my third strike. I don't want to be these people. I know what I want. Kinda, not really. What do you want to be when you grow up? Still working on that. I know only a certain percentage of people that try to make it in the professional league make it. So I know I really probably shouldn't do that, but I do kind of like sports. But I know for certain I don't want to be homeless. I'm gonna learn landscaping. I'm gonna learn how to cut hair. I'm gonna learn how to clean shoes and see if I can resell them. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna wash cars. I'm a lifeguard. I'm gonna try medical. I'm a volunteer. I'm gonna put myself in these positions where hopefully I can grow and learn something. So I encourage anybody watching this today, if you don't do anything else, put yourself sometimes in different scenarios. And even if you don't know exactly what you want, a lot of people spend their life trying to pursue destiny, find out what their destiny is. I've seen people spend lots of money on destiny and purpose-driven lives and all this stuff. And that's cool. And I encourage you to read. And you might take something from it that helps you. But I encourage you to also identify, if you don't do anything else, identify of what you don't want.
Okay. I want to connect some dots and make this even more of a victorious moment for our publics. Today, what I got from a conversation with you today so far was that most of us have trauma, and that trauma gone unprocessed can result in lack of esteem or addiction. And it's not always that you're addicted to a toxic substance. Sometimes you can be addicted to something that you think is harmless, but all in all, addiction is a sign that you have lack of balance. And at the end, at the crescendo, in the prime of our lives, we want to consult with people like you to figure out how to have balance. The conversation about balance is the one that we don't have too often in our impoverished communities, in our disadvantaged rooms. We're not talking about how to achieve balance. You can also find a lack of this conversation in upscale rooms on college campuses. How do I find balance? So we're connecting all these dots today. And in order to find balance, you have to consult. You have to embrace your community. You need to embark on some therapy. You need to reflect. You need to identify what you don't want. It's not okay.
Absolutely.
It's not okay to substitute one addiction for another. We are raising awareness about the need for balance today. That's what all this amounts to. How are you acquiring balance? The word has to be incorporated into your vocabulary going forward. Go ahead.
I think what you were trying to also speak on, so there's a lot of things that can come. Trauma, addiction, all these things can come from a struggle, right? Embrace it. But there's also beauty in the struggle. So don't slight it and just say that only negative it can come from it, because by you identifying what you don't want to be, that can be the motivator enough to get you in a position where you're like, you know what, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but now I found my lane. When you're a child, again, it's tough to see the future, and it can and you're not alone. I was a child once. I'm working with my nephew right now. He is a child getting through high school, all these different scenarios. And it's okay not to know exactly what you want to be. It's okay to know, but I encourage you to know what you don't want to be. Know what you do not want to be. I do not want to be in the homeless. I do not want to live without my high school diploma. I do not want to live knowing that I have to beg and borrow for money. I do not want to go to Rent-A-Center. I want it. Okay. If finding out that these goals are realistic, that is going to be the difference that can take you to that next level to achieve everything that you do want.
That's right.
Based off of knowing what you don't want.
That's right. We want more men standing up the way that you're standing up, Nicholas. We want more men such as yourself speaking to the nephews, the nieces, the young people, and the grown folks. This is a grown folks conversation. In the second half here on America's Next Motivator, we're raising awareness about the balance that we all need to find. Drop a 1 in the chat if you remember having a conversation about balance. I'd venture to say there's not as many people as we think who've been sat down to have a conversation about balance. Was balance a part of the conversation? That's what you're incorporating into our minds today. And I think that is a huge takeaway. Oh, I get it. Let me find balance, right?
Yes.
Your pursuit of achievement comes when you find balance. So now, do you do workshops? Do you teach people? How can somebody work with you if they wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, check me out, wgctoday.com. It stands for Wright Group Counseling, wgctoday.com. I got a couple workshops coming out. I'm doing one on, it's called, I'm kind of playing with the name right now. Right now I got Black Tie Mental Health Summit. It might change, but just stay tuned. Basically, it's a 2-day workshop where we're going to be presenting on 5 sessions to help improve Black men in their mental health. The goal is for Black men to come together in a safe space to discuss things Black men go through and learn healthy coping skills along the way in the process. I encourage you, your brother, your uncle, your cousin, whomever, to consider attending the workshop. It's going to be a good one.
Can you give us a sample of some coping skills that we could acquire? What are some coping skills?
Absolutely, man. So I do a lot of free promo stuff on my YouTube page, Nicholas Wright, Nicholas Wright, WRIGHT, Mental Health Matters. You can look me up on YouTube. It's a black and white photo of me sitting at a desk. 10 tips and coping skills to deal with anxiety. 10 tips and coping skills to help with depressed mood. 10 tips and techniques to help with manifesting your destiny or determining your destiny. The Napoleon Hill version, Think and Grow Rich. A lot of different techniques. So real quick, not to go down a tangent, but as it relates to coping skills for anxiety. Diaphragm breathing. Put the air in.
Why is that important?
It works. I want you to put, all right, diaphragm breathing. Look it up. You put the air in your stomach, not your chest.
Okay.
When you breathe in your chest, it causes shortness of breath, shallowness. And next thing you know, you're hyperventilating. Don't do that. You want to put the air in your stomach. You want your inhale your nose. 1, 2, 3. One, out your mouth for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You want your inhales to be shorter than your exhales. Okay? Because that's going to lower your heart rate and get you focused. All right, another one, yellow technique. Point out everything in the room that you see is yellow right now. Go.
Your shirt, that's it.
Look around.
I mean, there's stuff on my desk that's yellow, but
what do you see?
I have a lint roller right here. I'm always getting myself together before the show starts. But yes, there are yellow items around me. Yes. Can
you give me another one, please?
No, I can't.
See, anxiety. I mean, your stress level drops. Your stress level drops. You went out of character. You were no longer the host. You were like, wait, you took a deep breath. Did you feel it?
Right.
Did you
right.
feel
yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's the yellow technique. That's the technique that works. I encourage everybody. Check it out, wgctoday.com.
Okay.
Nicholas Wright, Mental Health Matters on YouTube. Yellow technique, put some ice in your hand if you're actually having a panic attack. This is the last one. Because anxiety has a lot of different levels on the spectrum. This is what I do. I can go in depth for hours. So this is my sandbox.
Okay.
So ice in your hand. If you have your actual panic attack, a technique that might work is it'll slow you down. It'll focus on that ice that's in your hand. It'll melt. It'll just change your mood, change your temperament, and take you out of your head. A lot of times with anxiety, we're in our noggin. So the best way to combat anxiety is get out of it. Be in the moment.
Hold on. I have thoroughly enjoyed the knowledge that's come out of this conversation. We are pretty much at the end of the show here. Everybody, go and support Nicholas Wright. He's a very important member of our community, helping us to get our mental health on track. I see a use for you in every organization in America. When you talk about diaphragm breathing, you are talking about unsuffocating the general public. We are suffocating. We're suffocating by way of our experiences. We're suffocating by way of the things that we're engaging in. And at the end of all of it, we're not even breathing properly. So diaphragm breathing changes the entire outlook of our communities. I have 3 questions for you as we finish this show. We've got 20 seconds left in the show.
Okay.
My first question, what is survival to you?
Being in a position or a place of frantic, kind of distraught, just anxiety driven. You're not at a place of peace. You're in survival mode. And when you meet with a counselor, my goal is to take you from survival mode to a place of peace, rejuvenating your peace of mind.
What is success to you?
Just achievements, whether it be big or small. Success is achievements.
What is greatness to you?
Distinguished. Muhammad Ali. So I just think of distinguished. I don't want to go into too much detail.
What is the legacy in the 1 or 2 sentences that you intend to leave on planet Earth? What's your legacy?
The importance of mental health, the importance of hard work, the importance of building relationships, the importance of caring, the importance of health, the importance of family, the importance of community, the importance of charitable giving, but also the importance of self-care.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Wright, we are giving you your respect today. We are giving you a crown today. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. We are giving you a crown today while you're still alive to receive it. We are letting you know, letting the world know that you, Nicholas Wright, you are America's next motivator.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
You got crowns coming into the building. Thanks for stopping by today, all right?
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Wright. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you've got to do, just like you did today, stop by and pick it up.